I'm a 17-year-old male living in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, and this happened April 10th, 2017. The day started out normal. I went to school and came home. I had been talking to my mom about her day for around 30 minutes when my stepfather came pulling up our driveway. My stepfather's job had been stressing him out as of lately, so he's been drinking to cope with the stress. Horrible way of doing so, I know. Anytime my stepfather brings home alcohol, it infuriates my mother due to the fact that he used to be an alcoholic. So, surprise, surprise, they started arguing. Not wanting to hear them argue, I went to my room and decided to take a nap. Around 8 or 9 o'clock, my mother wakes me up and asks if I want to go for a ride. Most people would think this is weird, but it's pretty normal for my mom and me to just take a cruise. She explains that she didn't want to be in the house with my stepfather because he was drunk. I was still in that zombified half-awake sleep, so all I remember is throwing on a jacket in my Vans and getting in the car. My sister was also with us. A quick little backstory on my sister. My sister and her coworker, that I will mention later in the story, both work in the garden center at this Walmart this story takes place at. My mom, my sister, and I decided to get some food and shoot the shit for a little bit until my stepfather eventually passed out from being drunk. After we ate, Mom remembered a few things that she needed to pick up at Walmart. We had just arrived at Walmart when my sister's coworker, Bobby, walks out and starts talking to us. At first, Bobby was just talking about normal Walmart stuff, and then he said something kind of odd. He told us that some guys drove up on him earlier while he was outside in a black BMW and told him that he needs to go check out this car because there's either a really creepy mannequin or a dead body in it. Hearing this automatically caught our attention, and we agreed to go check it out with him after he got off work. About an hour passes, and Bobby got off work. We all head out to the parking lot and get in our vehicles. We watched where Bobby drove to, and followed. The car in question was in the far back left corner of the parking lot. Bobby made it there before us, and I saw him get out of his car and look into the car the guys had told him about earlier. He had only looked in that car for a second when his face turned pale and he jumped back into his car. I got out of my car and approached the car Bobby just looked in. I immediately got a bad feeling because of the look on his face, and the strange liquid coming from the car, and that nasty smell that surrounded the area. Imagine that nasty hospital smell that we all know, magnified by 20. That's how it smelled. I turned on my phone's flashlight and looked in the back window of the car. What I saw next made my skin crawl. I saw a lady laying against the door in the back seat of the car. Upon closer examination, I saw a horrifying sight. The lady appeared to be an older Indian lady. Her eyes were sunken back into her head and she was decomposing badly. I noticed what seemed like dried blood on her abdomen and told my sister to call the police. The whole time we were waiting on the cops, I was messaging my friend Jax, explaining the situation to him and trying to calm myself down. He didn't help much because all he was saying was, "Sick! Send body pics." When the first cop arrived, he walked to the car and shined his flashlight into it. The sight was so horrible it even scared the cop because he almost fell backward and said, "Oh fuck." Shortly after the other cops arrived, I learned something even more disgusting and creepy. The strange liquid I mentioned from earlier turned out to be the lady's body fluid. Unaware of this, Bobby, my mother, my sister, and I all stepped in it. I immediately felt sick. If you look at the picture of the car on the screen, you can see the body fluid under the tire and the shoe prints on the pavement where we stepped in it. To upscale the creepy factor even more, the detective told me this was the second body found in a car that week. After the police were done questioning us and taking our statements, my mom, my sister, and I decided to walk back into Walmart to buy bleach and disinfectant wipes so that we could sanitize our shoes. The whole time we were walking into Walmart, I just kept thinking that I was walking in some lady's body fluid, and I was about to wash her off my shoes like nothing. Thinking like this was driving me insane, so I had to push it out of my head. A few days later, I learned a lot more about the lady. It turns out she was going to Nashville for a job interview, and somehow never made it. I still have no idea how she ended up in my area. Also, it turned out that she was a white lady. She had decomposed so badly in the car that her skin had started to turn brown and wrinkled up, leading me to think that she was an older Indian lady. The cops had also told my sister that the lady was sitting in the car dead for 15 days. That creeped the holy fuck out of my sister, knowing that she had been working for almost 2 weeks with a dead body in the parking lot, completely unaware. The creepiest part, in my opinion, is that her death is still a mystery. It was early August 1981. I was 14 years old, and as much as I enjoyed the summer, I needed something to do. I lived in British Columbia, Canada, and many of the residents travel elsewhere during this time of year. Because of this, I decided that it wouldn't hurt me to go and get a summer job. Even though I was only 14, I was a pretty strong boy, so I was thinking it might be fun to help one of my neighbors with yard work. Honestly, I thought even watering their plants while they were on vacation would be better than working at McDonald's. I asked my parents and neighbors to spread the word that I was interested in doing work this summer. Clearly, the word spread very quickly, because when I was walking through my neighborhood one afternoon, a man stopped me on the sidewalk. He was very friendly, and it seemed like he definitely must have known one of my neighbors, or maybe even my parents for all I knew. He was stocky, with very moppy brown hair. After he shook my hand, he told me that in a few days he needed some work done at his house. He mentioned that he would pay me well, and that although it would be hard work, he would make it worth it. The only thing that seemed somewhat suspicious was that he didn't want me to meet him at his house, which was odd because I assumed he lived pretty close by. He told me to meet him on a street corner that was a few blocks away from my house, and he would take me from there. I happily agreed and went about my day. Thinking nothing of it, I went to the street corner on the day that he told me to meet. The date was August 12th. I waited and waited. I knew for sure I had the right time, but I thought he was just running late, so I kept waiting. Then after nearly 45 minutes, I decided that he had probably just forgotten or something. Not gonna lie, I was very angry. I stormed back home, only to find out that there was absolutely nothing to be angry about. I was the luckiest boy alive. A few days later, I found out that the man who was responsible for kidnapping, sexually assaulting, and murdering a bunch of local children had finally been caught. I will never forget the hair standing up on the back of my neck when I realized that this was the same man that offered me a job that day. The reason he didn't show up that day was because the police finally arrested him. Had the police been 1 day later, I have no doubt in my mind that I would have been his final victim. This man was very evil. Not only did he sexually torture children before murdering them, he would anonymously phone the victim's family and taunt them about it. Seeing others in pain and misery put a smile on his face. I don't even want to know what kind of sick torture this awful man had planned for me. As of now, this monster has finally died in jail, where he belonged. To this day, the community still has scars from his terrible actions. There is definitely an important lesson learned here though, and that is to never trust someone that you've only spoken to once, especially in an area where children have been disappearing for months. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you email it to urmaker6260@gmail.com. And if you're interested in gaining early access to my videos, make sure you go check out my Patreon page. I have perks for different levels of contributions, and all of them have access to early viewing. So make sure you go check it out if you'd like to help support the channel. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories mentioned in this video, make sure you check the description for links to the articles. I'll catch you guys in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.